Some countries around the world are experiencing rapid economic growth so quickly that you might be surprised by a few names on this list. From countries with newly discovered oil deposits to great advancements in their infrastructures and GDP, here are the fastest growing countries in 2020. Hey guys, how's it going? Are you ready for another Mysterious American Eye video? The Philippines. In 2019, the Philippines witnessed outstanding economic growth, and many are predicting that the trend will continue to grow into the next year. The World Bank projected that their GDP would rise 6.5% in 2020 and 6.6% in 2021. This country isn't afraid of making babies either, and they've noticed a steady incline in population and are expected to bring another 109,000 people into the world in 2020. With a pretty good exchange rate for the US dollar to Philippine peso, many Westerners have considered retiring to this country. The capital city of Manilla has noticed a significant increase in traffic, and homes might become a little bit crowded there. Nonetheless, Americans can expect to live a decent life there, close to the beach, for only about $800 a month. That's with rent only costing about $200 a month. We can see why it's becoming a popular destination in recent years. You'll just have to deal with people eating baby duck eggs, and it should be okay. The Maldives. Typically, when you go to the Maldives, you expect luxury seclusion and relaxation out of the sun. It almost seems like at some point in time, there won't be enough room for everyone to live in this archipelago country in the Indian Ocean. If the country doesn't get hit by a tsunami in the upcoming 30 years, it's believed that their population will double what it is now. Many are predicting that their GDP will increase by 6.3% in 2020. This will therefore increase their per capita GDP too. Compared to other Southeast Asian countries like India, Nepal, and Bhutan, this small country is keeping up with economic production. With economic growth comes pollution though too. A lot of tourism to this part of the world is certainly helpful, and it might grow a little bit too fast to keep up with demand. There has been quite the problem with pollution because of this, and a trash island known as Philppine had to be created. It's estimated that 31,000 truckloads of garbage were transported to this island each year, and it continues to grow. Benin. While it still ranks as one of the poor countries on this list, Benin is expected to see some steady economic growth, partially due to being one of Africa's largest cotton exporters. Their population sits at about 11 million people, which is pretty big considering its size. A majority of its citizens live in the southern part of the country, where there's still much untapped resources in the north. Some of its strength comes with its new president, who's making strides at free market reforms. Its economy has managed to get better over the past 4 years as it makes a transition from a dictatorship to a democracy. With exports such as oil, limestone, marble, and timber, it's easy to see why there's so much potential for this country to become stronger than ever before. A majority of the population is under 25, and for quite some time, one woman on average would have 7 kids. This has led to a huge population increase as well. Ecuador. Ecuador was the setting for a huge economic boom in 2019 and has experienced a surge in poverty reduction over the past decade or so. Due to their low oil prices and their appreciation for American currency, it hasn't been too hard to do business here with this country. There are high hopes in 2020 that can only get better as more people begin to realize that this is a good low-key place to retire. Many yet praise their low dental prices, and people live a comfortable lifestyle on their retirement pensions. The population is also on the rise here, and tourism has been going up with interest in Inca ruins. Bolivia. Bolivia and Ecuador were fairly equal in GDP percent increases over the past couple years. They're fairly equal in comparison, except that Bolivia is much larger and it doesn't have a beach. In any case, it tops the list for the fastest growing country in South America by population. With 3 times more people being born than expiring, the next generation will certainly be booming in the upcoming decades. Bolivia is dense with resources and benefits from natural gas exports to countries such as Argentina and Brazil. Unfortunately, it is still rather undeveloped, which deters some investments, but a lot of room to grow. The government plans on going all in soon by nationalizing their industries and utilizing their natural resources of petroleums, gold, silver, and soy products in the upcoming years. Laos. Another landlocked country is Laos, which is kind of like Thailand, but without the beaches and less tourists. But now that they've been left alone for quite a while, they've been able to prosper, and people are beginning to notice that it might be a good spot to invest in the future. The country has a little bit of a rough history with the US. Possibly one of the most intriguing blends of French and Indo-Chinese architecture would be right here at the Presidential Palace in Laos. It's located on the banks of the Mekong River near a Buddhist temple complex. The royal government decided that this would be a good location for their palace, and in 1973, construction took place. The communist Buddhist country will also notice a big upgrade to their electrical systems in the upcoming years, and now they can deal with Mark Zuckerberg taking all their data. Cambodia. Cambodia's GDP is expected to have a healthy rise soon, and while it might be good for the wallets, it's not so good for the environment. Factories from Vietnam have been relocated to this country for years now, and foreign investors are expected to make quite a bit of money by cutting costs even lower. It shouldn't come as a huge surprise that Cambodia is having some negative consequences from growing at such a fast pace. In 2016, the US News and World Report ranked Cambodia's coastline as the dirtiest in the world, based on the amount of trash collected by volunteers from the International Coastal Cleanup. More than 50% of their population is under 25, and their economic growth has reached more than 8% between 2000 and 2010. Their economy, though, is still pretty reliant on their textile production, but overall poverty has declined quite a bit. Nepal. Many refuge seekers from India, China, and other countries want to stay here, which has helped its population increase in recent years. Not only should things be fairly inexpensive, but you'll also have the shelter of the Himalayas to protect you from zombies. If you live the way the locals do, you can eventually domesticate yaks, who will provide you with warm furs, transportation, milk, and of course meat. The geographical isolation of this country will still make trade a little bit difficult though. In the future, you should expect to see some growth, especially being located right between China and India. The Cote d'Ivoire. For being in Western Africa, the Cote d'Ivoire, or Ivory Coast, has a relatively high income per capita and plays a key role in trade for countries found more inland on the continent. A lot of their income actually comes from cocoa and chocolate, which we're pretty sure people are going to continue to buy and sell. Other things they sell include petroleum oils, crude oil, gold, and boats. There are also a total of 100,000 rubber farmers who can make a decent living here. The Hershey Company also expects to see a dramatic increase in the price of chocolate in the upcoming years, which will boost their economy. Egypt. Even though Egypt might have some problems with sandstorms from time to time, the overall living conditions and GDP are expected to be on the rise in the upcoming years. They're off to a great start already in 2020 and should be able to easily pass their fiscal income from last year. While the majority of their exports come from petroleum oils and crude oils, they have a wide variety of other stuff to sell too. Everything from copper and gold to cheese and citrus fruits, it's good to see that they're not putting all their eggs in one basket. The pyramids are always bound to bring in tourists too. Egypt occupies a very strategic location that possesses the Suez Canal, which can transport vessels from the Red Sea to the Mediterranean. Myanmar. Formerly known as the Kingdom of Burma, this is growing at a fast rate, partially thanks to trade in oil and gas to other Southeast Asian countries. With the construction of pipelines in the near future, trade in oil will be easier than ever before. An offshore gas field was discovered 60 miles off the coast, which could be a source of exceptional wealth if all goes according to plan. Since 2012, the country has opened its borders for more tourism, and there's certainly a lot more cool sights to check out. In the future, the country plans on modernizing their roads, airports, public utilities, and methods of transport. Rwanda. This country has been through quite a bit of political instability, to put it lightly, over the past couple decades, but it's starting to get better. They're expected to reach middle income status this year, with promising investments and fertile agricultural land to develop. Many businessmen who want to set up shop here can do so relatively easily now. The country has become a regional leader of information and communication technologies. Their main exports include coffee, minerals, tea, and tourism, which helps support their economy. There is much potential for it to grow in the upcoming years, as the population is well spread out throughout the country. Bangladesh. So there's definitely some good news about Bangladesh, and also some very bad news. Many have considered the traffic in Dhaka, Bangladesh to be the worst in the world, and has been known to stand still for several hours a day. It has a population of roughly 15 million people, making it one of the busiest cities in the world. The economy relies on sweatshops and factories, which has made it one of the most unlivable cities according to some. Despite some overcrowding and political instability, Bangladesh has experienced an economic growth of 6% each year since 2006. Pumping out all those cheap goods is at least giving some people jobs that they need. Ethiopia. Yep, that's right. The country was asking for food handouts not too long ago, and it's now one of the fastest growing economies in the world based on GDP. This was done carefully with improvements in agriculture and giving children a better education for the future, but not without a little help from China, of course. As the second most populous country in Africa, and for more than a decade now, their GDP experienced an 8 to a 10% increase each year. The improvements in this infrastructure appear to have done wonders for this country. Some of the industries that seem to be doing well here include food processing, beverages, textiles, leather, chemicals, and making cement. Some of their best exports include coffee, oilseeds, gold, live animals, and raw leather products. The region also seems to have some strategic value, not only being close to Africa, but also very close to the Middle East. There's certainly a lot that still needs to be improved here, but it seems like they're headed in the right direction. Whoa, now that was a cool video. Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.